Looks like the Chiefs and Royals have some extra time to consider where they'll call home in the years to come. As expected, top leaders in Kansas extended the clock, giving the teams until June 30th of next year to consider the Star Bonds offers, which could pay for up to 70% of new stadiums. But lawmakers want something figured out by the end of this year.
I think we all wanted this to be finished and finalized, so I hope we can do that. But again, I think we have to abide by the law.
I'm a sports fan, so it'll be a success as long as these franchises stay in the metro area, and that's still true. That is the main purpose. I'd hate to have seen either team leave. Can you imagine a Kansas City without a MLB or NFL team?
Of course, all of this is happening while Missouri's deal is still very much on the table. Team leaders have said that they are weighing their options. Our roundtable's here to discuss these and other new developments and other major headlines. Please welcome back Brian Ellison, host contributor with KCUR, and KMBC9 political reporter Michael Mahoney. First off, the end of the year is way different than the 30, 60, 90-day timeline that Senate President Ty Masterson told us he wanted. And, other leaders have said that they don't exactly like having to extend this deadline.
Right, and this will remain in the ball of the Legislative Coordinating Council in Kansas. And I think that if it would happen to slop over into 26, when the legislature is back in session, it may get more difficult in the state of Kansas because there would be some people in an election year that would want to use the stadium issue and money for rich billionaires as a campaign issue, and they may not have as much support as they had right now. In Missouri, that offer is still on the table. What's waiting right now is let's see what the local plan is, whether it's the county does something, whether the city does something, whether Clay County does something.
Yeah, I think we're in a really interesting spot. I think you're starting to hear from the elected leaders in both Kansas and Missouri a general sense of I don't know if anxiety or annoyance is the right word.
There's certainly frustration.
There seems to be a growing sense of frustration that the teams are taking this long to come up with their plans, perhaps with local officials for not being more proactive in making their plans. And so obviously that neither state wants to give up on the possibility of having the team there, and yet there is a sense that maybe you could push them too far.
Do they ever say no, though? I mean, the Chiefs and Royals come back and say, well, we'd like to bring this billion-dollar stadium to your county.
I think my impression is that both states are willing to go a long way, but I think we might have reached the maximum number they're willing to get to. It's very difficult to imagine a special session in Missouri or a further Star Bonds in Kansas increasing the amount they're willing to pay.
Yeah, I agree. I think the numbers that are on the table, the 50% number in Missouri, 70% in Kansas, is at the max, and the ball is in the team's court, to mix a metaphor there.
Hey, let's get to Jackson County politics real quick. There is movement on the recall election of County Executive Frank White. Legislature kind of pushed that ball forward a little bit. Still back and forth, though, Brian, on when that would happen.
Like most things involving Jackson County politics, Cody, it seems that there's a lot of confusion around even the date of the election, how the election gets called, and whether the election can happen. We heard this week from the Kansas City Election Board, the Jackson County Election Board, that it would be, quote, next to impossible to have the ballots ready and to do all the things that are required to get an election going by that date. Meanwhile, there's a lawsuit now pending about whether the county legislature even has authority to call an election or set an election date or delay an election. So there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, the setting and calling an election is a lot more complex than most people think. You just don't call an election and a snap election, as they say in Britain. And execute it because of the way that elections are set up in the United States, and particularly here in Missouri. The poll workers are volunteered. They've got to be assembled. The ballot has to be printed. There are lots of mechanical issues that make it difficult to turn around very quickly and have an election. And that's why those election boards in Jackson County and Kansas City are saying it's very difficult to do this in 60 days.
Right, and as we talked about last week, the legislature, if he is recalled, would appoint a replacement. Who do you expect to come out of the woodwork here?
I would think, and this is purely off the top of my head, I think Duron McGee would be a possible. Manny Abarca would be another. Abarca has been a lightning rod in the legislature, in particular with loggerheads with Frank White. Those are two names that I think would pop up. Maybe it's somebody that's not even involved right now in county government.
What we do know is that it has to be a Democrat, because
Yep.
according to the county charter, a Democrat can only be replaced by a Democrat if they're removed from office. So that eliminates at least a couple members of the legislature who might have had interest otherwise.
But there's always new developments, so we'll be watching them for sure. Brian Ellison, Michael Mahoney, thank you so much. KMBC 9 News and Heart of the Matter are watching all these stories affecting lives in Kansas City and beyond. Look for updates on air and online at KMBC.com.